Hello everyone. This is going to be a weird place to start this video. I know for those of you who have maybe seen my one video on my channel, it is nothing like this. One thing that I'm going to start doing is recording what I've been working on a world since this past August, so August of 2020. I have been working on a survival world just for building, really. As you can see, there's some of the mesa over there that has been scavenged for resources, and as well as some around here as well. One thing that I will say about this world is that, yes, I am using teleport commands as I teleport back to where my main area is. And I really started this world because what I love doing in this game is building. That's what I've always really enjoyed. But building in creative has gotten boring over time, just because all it is building. There's nothing that is, I guess, not that there's no stakes involved, but it has always been, I don't know, it's just been one aspect of it, and it gets boring quickly, I've found in my personal experience. And so I thought, what if I just started a world, and I gave myself tools to begin with. I've upgraded those tools slowly over time. But I start a world where everything I want to build, I have to get all the resources for it legitimately and that kind of thing. But I still have, good tools to be able to get those resources quickly, so it's not as grindy as it would be. Like for F-Whip, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. His hardcore series that he was doing fully legit and having to grind all the resources for, and things of that nature. This isn't one of those kinds of situations where it's 100% legit. I can tell you now it's not going to be 100% legit, and it probably never will be. I do, every once in a while, flip into creative, like, let me give you an example. I obviously made this glass platform up here in creative mode, just because I didn't feel like I personally needed to make it in survival mode. It only would have just taken more time. And it's things like this that I have made in creative mode. Like these houses and buildings down that are underneath this glass platform, I also made in creative mode, simply because I am testing out designs for different things that I want to do with them. So it made more sense in the moment to just do it in creative mode and have it set up that way. But all of the buildings that you're seeing, I'm going to tear that down. I hate it. I need to make it better. But all of these houses that you see down here, and these houses as well, fountains, little shops and things like that, that tree that I also need to take down, and things of that nature have all been built in survival. So all of the resources for them I got in survival. All the building was done in survival. So all of the resources that were made for these buildings was in survival. However, like with tools and things like that, and building just like utility things like this wool farm, I did not get all of the observers and everything needed for it in survival. I built it in creative mode, and this has just been running for I've had it going for maybe a week total that I've been working on this. Same with the cactus farm. I could have built it in survival, but it's one of those things where there's no real need to. And so, like, my main idea for this world was just building, but in survival, and things of that nature. And I wanted it to be kind of a medieval fantasy kind of world. So, like, with these different styles of houses, there's going to be different, like, species or races, I guess you could technically call them. So, like, this one would technically be goblin. This one's lizardman, fairy, elf, dark elf, things of that nature. And so when I'm testing out different designs for buildings and houses and things like that, I will go into creative, make what I'm kind of the design that I'm thinking of. Some of these designs, like the lizardman house that I'm pointing at right now, I did get inspiration from the internet. I just looked up swamp houses on Google, and I saw things that I liked and kind of tried to mimic the style. Same with the goblin house as well. I saw things that I liked, tried to mimic them as best as I could. Obviously, with smaller scale, it's more difficult to make them as detailed. But that's one thing. But it's just kind of something I've always enjoyed. That's like with F-Whip's Hardcore Survival series. He had... one thing I really appreciated with it was that he was very building focused. So that's something that I wanted to kind of do, but not do it as strict, just because I knew I wouldn't be as fond of or excited about it. And that's one thing I feel like people with, sometimes they would not necessarily get mad, but like call out you different people who play like their own survival world and like say, oh, well, you obviously, grabbed what you needed to in creative mode and then played it off as if you were in survival mode and things like that. And I understand the irritation behind that someone says they got everything legitimately, but they didn't, and that people will get mad at it. However, one thing I've always personally thought of when it comes to things like that is that I play this game for me, and I play how I know I will enjoy it. Like, I've never had a Minecraft world that is survival last as long as this one has. Solely for the reason that if it's just plain survival, I will get bored. And if it's just plain creative, I will get bored. And so I decided to find a good mix between the two. And I feel like that's fair, to find a way that you can play the game that you will be happiest with it. That's my kind of take on it. So yes, I have used creative and commands to do, commands, to do various things in the game, but in this kind of world, I'm not seeing it as a, crazy thing. I use it for coming up with building ideas and utility kind of things. Like, I have all of the resources that would have been necessary to make that cactus farm in survival, but I didn't want to because it would just take longer in survival. And it's just kind of utility things like that. Same with the wool farm. I could have made it in survival. It would have taken significantly longer for the same impact, and it just would have taken a long time, and I know I would have gotten tired of it, and it just felt better to do it in creative and just things of that nature. So I would have started this series with starting at the very beginning. I didn't see a point at the time, simply because I didn't know how long this was going to last. I just thought, well, let's just see what happens. See how long I go with it, because I know if I was a viewer, I would be irritated if a YouTuber or someone that I watched frequently started a series and then kind of stopped playing it randomly after only a couple of episodes. Like, well, why did you stop? You had spent a lot of time on it, or a good amount of time on it, and things of that nature. And it's kind of like well, why did you start it if you knew you were just going to stop it at a random point in time? And so that's why I kind of wanted to wait to make sure that this is a project that I knew I was going to work a long time on and things of that nature. So even if we look at the statistics in Minecraft that they give you, so my total time played has been 7.14 days. If I use my calculator to multiply that out, let's see. I spent a total of 171 hours plus some change on this Minecraft world. And I mean, that's a lot of time. it's a lot of time. And it's one of those things where, like, yes, I know that this is something that I'm going to want to keep going with because I have put a bunch of time into it. And it's something that I feel like I could actually do something good with, which is why I would, keep it going and things like that. So that's why I'm just starting this now. I have a different world that's the same seed, same place of what it looked like before I started. So I can show you that. This was a basic, basic plains. There was a village, spruce village, that was right in this area that kind of connected across. There's basic landscaping changes, like I fixed up the river. In most places, there's some places I need to fix up more. Sorry, I'm not the best at flying with an elytra, but I'm trying to as best I can here. But I've kind of fixed up the river to make it look better, and small things like that. There are a couple places where I still need to fix things. So it's just one of those things where it's a survival world. I'm working on it. It's a building focused. I can't believe I just messed that up. It's building focused, so there's not going to be a whole lot of, there's not a whole lot of grinding. I have mob spawning turned off just because since this is more building focused, I didn't see a need to have mobs turned on. I'll turn them on occasionally. I mostly have them turned off because, when creepers spawn, they blow things up, and my wool farm only works if mob destruction is turned on, and I wouldn't want creepers spawning in houses that apparently don't have enough light, and then they all explode, and I have to rebuild them. That's one of the things that, even in a regular survival world, I'll have mob griefing turned off, just because it's so irritating to deal with for someone who focuses on building like myself. Like, I haven't even beaten the Ender Dragon on this world. I haven't done a lot of the advancements that you could. I've done I have an elytra, obviously, but everything from. Oh, I also will explain the data pack that I have installed, as well as the shaders. I'm sure a lot of you know how shaders work. If you don't, I'm not going to be the best person to explain how they work. But I am using Project Luma shaders. They just have a nicer feel, honestly, as most people would tell you when it comes to Minecraft shaders. It makes everything look nicer. I did, when I first started, have a texture pack on that made the wool in the houses look different, and things like that. That made it look more medieval kind of feeling. But that texture pack paired with the shaders just didn't work. The sky was glitchy. I was thinking about finding a new texture pack to work with it, but I couldn't really find one. So I just decided, let's just go with shaders and forget the texture pack, and I'll get used to the bright wool colors as I, play more. So yes, I'm using Project Luma shaders. The data pack that I have on is a building wand data pack. So let's see if I have one made. I do not. It comes with a crafting recipe, which is great. So it's almost like a shovel, except it's diagonal. So if build a shovel diagonally, it comes out as a knowledge book, and you get a builder's wand. And I don't use World Edit, mostly because I like keeping things as somewhat vanilla as I can. I mean, to a point, obviously. But filling in large areas, like with floors and things like that, or even with roofs, since it works diagonally, which is really nice. Like, if we fly over here to this house, I fully need to get rid of. Filling in this roof would have taken so much time, and that's one thing that I hate about building roofs, is placing all of these stairs, because everybody's messed up placing a stair multiple times. And it's just easier being able to place an entire, I guess you could kind of call it a column of stairs. It just speeds things up and makes it less tedious. So yes, there are those things that I've added into this world and this playthrough that are just more utility involved rather than, I personally wouldn't call it cheating, because everybody has their own play style when it comes to Minecraft. Some people like player versus player. Some people like full hardcore survival, which I've done hardcore survival. I had it going for around a year, and then I died stupidly, and I got angry, and then I stopped playing Minecraft for a while. But we all have the things that we enjoy in the game. And some people like Redstone, obviously, with Mumbo Jumbo and things like that. So everybody has their own way of playing. So, if you prefer watching a survival series that is more solely survival-based, and I guess you could technically call it more legitimate, then I encourage you to find somebody else who would do that style of content. I know F-Whip started a new survival world recently. It's not hardcore, but he did start a new survival world. So he puts on his videos. So you can always go to him. There are a bunch of other people who I'm sure do it as well. I don't know any names. But yeah. So I guess that's the basic overview of how the survival world and series is going to work. I will try to put these out frequently. I'm at school right now, which means it won't be as frequently as, one might expect or hope for. And I might not record every time I play on the server, but I will try to update everybody. And even if I don't voice record or things like that, I will try to screen record to at least put in a time lapse or something of that sort for, building things that I don't build, or building things that I build while not voice recording, because I know some people get irritated when YouTubers say, oh, and I mined off camera, and they have a full stack of diamonds, and it's like, there's no way to prove that they mined off camera, but there's also no way to prove that they didn't. And so it's one of those things where I at least try to make a time lapse and put it in the new video, just to kind of try to keep everybody up to date as to what happened. I know I'll try not to make any crazy progress without recording. So if I decide to start a whole new village with one of these style houses, I will, voice record, screen record, and everything, since it's like a bigger kind of thing. But if I'm just going to be building these houses that are all the same style, just kind of going through the process of doing it, or so let's say I was starting to build this area here, I'd come up with one design, or the basic style of the house that I'm looking at, and then I want to build, and then I'd build a couple of them while talking, and then the rest of them I would put in a time lapse, just because there wouldn't be any new things to talk about, unless that's something you guys are interested in, that I would be talking while building. Obviously less progress would be made in each video because of that, and less would happen in the video. But I guess it's kind of up to you guys whether or not you would prefer, just me building and talking about random things that you guys might have questions about, or things like that. But yeah, that's going to be the basic plan going forward. So I guess I'll catch you guys up on what I'm working on right now. So with these basic house, or I guess I'll call them templates, with these house templates for different styles and things like that, I'll use this house as an example. I have the blocks that are used and what they're used for. And then once I have that set out and the house style finished, I'll get shulker boxes. I do give myself shulker boxes because I don't feel bothered I'm not going to bother going to the end and fighting a bunch of shulkers to get shulker cells. It's just not something I want to do for this series, but I'll give myself shulker boxes, that's difficult to say. I'll give myself shulker boxes to fill them with the resources that I would need to build these kinds of houses. Because one thing I found when I was starting building and everything was with these houses, I would get 2 finished, then I'd have to go grind for resources for 2 hours and get another 4 finished. And I feel like especially with these kinds of buildings, when I'm going to be in other parts of the world building them, since they're not going to be right around this vicinity, it would be good to have a lot of those resources on hand to at least get a majority of the building done without it feeling like you grind for 2 hours and make a little bit of progress. And so all I've been doing as of right now has been, I don't know, as you saw me crafting earlier, I'm working on the goblin style houses and just getting the terracotta for them. I have most of the other stuff already. Terracotta has been my worst enemy as I've been doing this. I'm completely out of clay. I also have a shulker box marking my terracotta chest because there would be so many different chests for terracotta if I did it any other way. So I just have them in shulker boxes according to color. I don't know why there's a green terracotta in there, but that would be useful to have, even though it's just one. So this is just what I've been working on as of, I guess, right now. But this is just the main plan of what's going to happen. I have different, I'm going to call them races. You could call them species. But different kinds of people and creatures planned for this world. Because the medieval fantasy style of building has always been a thing that I've been interested in. I can't build modern. I've been there, tried that, succeeded once, never happened again. So yeah, I just thought fantasy medieval is kind of in my wheelhouse. And it's usually just buildings like these that you see here, as well as this style, that's always been kind of my go-to building style, I'd say, or at least pretty similar to it, with just like, you know, wood, stone brick, that like basic block palette. And so even though medieval's in my wheelhouse, I wanted to try to branch out and use different blocks that I normally wouldn't use for building, in different styles, just to kind of expand my horizons a little bit. So I guess that's probably all the talking that is going to happen for this first video. The rest of me just grinding and doing things like that, I'm going to put in a time lapse. I don't have a separate account or a, mod that lets me, or like the replay mod that lets you see it from an outside perspective. It's just going to be from my point of view. Sorry if it's jarring. But yeah, just a time lapse of collecting resources, doing all of those kinds of things. So I guess I will start the time lapse, and I'll talk to you guys later.